Good morning and welcome to Norcal APEX Accelerator's webinar. Today, we're discussing federal certifications for your small business. My name is Amanda Anderson. I'm the program coordinator for Norcal APEX Accelerator. And today I'm joined by our fantastic procurement specialist, Thomas Burns. But before I pass it off to Thomas for the main content of today's presentation, I want to let you know a little bit about APEX Accelerator services and how Norcal APEX Accelerator can help you really find success in government contracting. So the APEX Accelerator program is a nationwide network of over 96 centers that are funded by federal, state, and local grants to help businesses just like you contract with government agencies. And we do that by providing education and training so that you can feel comfortable and confident as you move towards contracting. The best part is all of this education, the training, the one-on-one counseling, all resources are available at absolutely no cost to you. And as you can see, we have over 7 APEX Accelerator centers in California alone. And like I said, 96 centers nationwide. So no matter where you are in the US, there is absolutely an APEX Accelerator Center who can help you. But what exactly does that help look like? What kind of assistance could you expect from an APEX Accelerator Center? Well, at NorCal APEX Accelerator, we're able to offer our services to the 15 Northern California counties you see on your screen. And we offer our services through 3 main pillars of assistance. First, our one-on-one counseling, where once you sign up with our center as a client, you're paired with one of our procurement specialists, just like Thomas Burns, who can sit down with you and go over anything you need help with related to government contracting. Whether that's helping you do the initial market research to figure out what agencies are actually buying your products and services, to helping you figure out what certifications you may qualify for and helping you figure out how to apply to them. We also help with the registrations that you need and much, much more, including helping with back-end paperwork and making sure all your T's are crossed, your I's are dotted when you're submitting that compliance paperwork after you win your first contract. Another huge benefit of signing up for one-on-one counseling is the custom bid matching software. So this is a program that we actually pay for and are able to offer to our clients at absolutely no cost. Remember, all of our services will be absolutely no cost to you. But what this custom bid matching software allows us to do is it allows us to help you figure out a list of criteria that would mean a good solicitation for your business. So maybe you can only perform services in a certain geographic location. That location could be a good criteria in a solicitation for you. Or maybe your product is so niche or new, and that product name itself could be the criteria you're looking for. Your counselor can sit down with you and help you really define what a good solicitation looks like for you. And they'll take that criteria and input it into this software that scrapes federal, state, and local procurement sites for opportunities relevant to you based on that criteria. And it emails these opportunities directly to you. And finally, our third pillar of assistance is one you're actually taking advantage of right now. We put on a number of webinars and in-person events throughout the year across our service area to help businesses just like you get the information you need and make the agency connections to really get your footing in government contracting. Another huge benefit is our website, where we maintain a number of links and resources related to every level of government contracting, whether you're looking to do business with your local county, with the state of California, or with the federal government. Our website has a ton of resources and information ready and available to you, whether or not you're in our service area. So, if you are interested in taking advantage of these services, please do sign up for these free services at our website, apexnorcal.org/join. But if you are outside of our 15 county service area, please do not worry. Remember, we are 96 centers strong across the nation. So even if we are not your local center, there is a local Apex Accelerator center who can offer you the same great assistance, all at absolutely no cost. So I highly recommend signing up for them, especially if you are looking to do business with any level of of government. And with that, I'm happy to pass it over to Thomas for our presentation.
Thank you, Amanda. Good morning, everyone. Let me make sure I have control. Okay, perfect, perfect. Yeah, good morning. This is a really going to be um, up to date as best as we can webinar dealing with federal certifications. So we're going to talk about doing business with the government, of course, with the federal government, the different certifications, the pros and cons, the different classifications, the application process, and as much current events or information to help you make a really good decision on what to do. And then finally, we'll cover sam.gov. It is the portal to become a vendor with the federal government. Again, this disclosure, the information that I've accumulated and put together in this webinar is accurate as the best I can up until today. But given this climate, things can change very quickly, almost weekly. And so just understand we're doing the best we can to give you the most up-to-date information. Also, as we go through, let's see what happened. Try it again. Okay. So as we go through this webinar, there'll be plenty of times I'll stop to see if you have questions. If so, then Amanda will help me read the questions and we'll keep going through this. We have about 45 to 50 minutes, so we should be able to get everything and get all of your questions answered. Okay, so let's start. So why do business with the federal government? As most people know, it's the largest buyer in the world. Um, that might be up to challenge as of now, but as far as we know, it's still the largest buyer in the world. And to as a way to hold the federal government's feet to the fire, so to speak, as a way to give the small business community an opportunity to really compete against larger firms and multinational corporations. Certifications are the way that the government goes about attempting to do this. So as you can see, the bullet points here, the 8A, WOSB, HubZone, and SDVOSB, which stands for Service Disabled Veteran-Owned Small Business. This is giving you the numbers for 2024. So as you can see in 2024, the 8A community, meaning the businesses that have an 8A certification, won $78 billion in awards, which is 12%. And then you could see everyone corresponding, plus the link to this information is right here in this slide. And so, we try to give links so you can look at the information or look at the article where it came from to verify everything. On the right side, it's talking about $637 billion was spent total when it comes to the different classifications. So it's kind of small print, but as you can see, the different classifications are by racial, and they break it all down. They're also by classification of just small and not small business. So this is just a quick overview. going to the next slide. This one is a really good slide because it really breaks down what federal agencies are spending money with the small business community and how do they rank. Now, as you can see, this is 2024. So this is the information that I was able to gather that's showing what the top 10 agencies um, spent that were rated an A plus. So you can see the SBA, but I'm also giving you the caveat. The risk versus the reward is that in 2024, they were given an A, but they've also lost 40% of their staff in 2025. Department of Agriculture, they were a A-plus agency that did a lot to work with the small business community in terms of giving contracts. They've lost 15% of their staff. The Department of Housing and Urban Development lost 50% of their staff. So what this means is even though they were given an A plus in 2024, the fact that they've lost this much staff will hinder and affect how they go about awarding contracts to the small business community in 2025 and in 2026. And also, things will change. So in 2026, I'm not clear if, as an example, the SBA will increase its staff, right? It lost 40% of its staff in 2025, but I don't know if in 2026 that might bump up a little bit. So this information is valuable because it helps you to figure out where to focus your energy. The federal government is so large, you're not going to be able to market to all federal agencies. So you have to pick and choose where you're going to put your energy. And this is just one way to help you figure that out. Let's go on to the next slide. So again, why? And the answer pretty much is it gives you some advantage over the large corporations. The contracting officers that work for the federal government within their specific agencies are mandated to do their best to take their budget. Let's say the budget is $100 million. 5%, 10% of that budget has to be spent with the small business community. The way that they go about looking for these small businesses is with certifications. And the contracting officers have the choice, though. They can say, you know what, I want to use an 8A firm, or I want to use a woman-owned small business certified firm, or I want to use a veteran firm, or maybe a hub zone. But it's also extremely important once you're looking at this certification process of, okay, if I am going to get certified, where's my best opportunity to do business with what federal agencies? And that's why the research is important because you can see that. You can see what agencies are hiring or spending or awarding contracts to WOSBs more than 8A firms, as an example. The other great benefit is working with primes. And so one of the mandates that the federal government does use is when contracts are over a certain dollar amount. It fluctuates, but let's just say $5 million. So a contract for some type of construction project is $10 million. They're going to mandate that prime, the company that wins that contract, that 10% or 20% or 15% of that contract, the work has to be done by a certified small business. So those are the reasons why you want to get certified. Let's jump right into federal certifications. Okay, so here is the breakdown for the certifications that currently exist. The first one, which is actually the largest category, is small disadvantaged businesses. This is a classification for those businesses based on their NAICS code. right? The next code is the code that the government created to help identify industries, products, and services. Quick example, if you are a janitorial firm, that has its own specific next code. And to be classified as a small disadvantaged business, they look at your next code and your employee size and your revenue. So I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but it's probably 500 employees or less and maybe 30 million in annual revenue. So if you have less than 500 employees and less than 30 million in revenue, you are automatically considered a small disadvantaged business. Now that 500 number isn't standard for all industries, but it's just one example. So don't think that all of them are 500 or less, because then there would be no there would be no large companies. Everybody would be small. But it creates the largest pool of certifications because it's self-certifying. You don't have to go through a lengthy application process to be considered a small disadvantaged business. It's actually just answering the questions correctly in your sam.gov application, which we'll get into later on. The veteran-owned small business is just what it says, a veteran-owned, just being a veteran. But the next one is a service disabled. So being a veteran who had some kind of service-connected disability. Women-owned small business. And the difference between the WOSB and the ED is a financial one. So they give a different type of certification to a woman-owned small business that has a lower threshold of economic, um, depending on their economic hardship, let's put it that way. And then the other one, which kind of started it, right, is the 8A program. This is the only one that's a 9-year program. It starts and it ends. The other ones, they just have a renewal process every 2 to 3 years, and it just keeps going and keeps going as long as you want it to. But the 8A program is a 9-year specific program, and I will be breaking down all of the different distinctions for all these certifications within this webinar. That's the bulk of what we're going to be talking about. And then the hub zone. The hub zone is the only one that is location specific. So based on your zip code and your location within a city or county will determine if you can qualify for a hub zone. Man, I don't know why it won't move sometimes. There we go. Okay. Did I miss something? I think I went, hold on.
So I do take that control when I'm
Yeah.
answering chat questions and Q&A. So just at that point, one click into the PowerPoint and then you should have control back.
Let's try it one more time because I think it went too far. Okay. Thank you. Okay, cool. All right. Overview of the new rules that affect the DBE program. So the federal certifications I just discussed is separate from this one. And the DBE, which stands for Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, is just for Caltrans. I'm sorry, just for the Department of Transportation. Caltrans is just the California Department of Transportation. So every state has its own Department of Transportation, and the federal government funds dollars directly from the federal government to every state to support everything from roads, bridges, ports, all of the infrastructure for the United States. And so the federal government has a DBE certification program. However, as you can read through this slide here, there's been a major change in how that works. And essentially, As of now, every single existing DBE has to go through a recertification process requiring individuals showing of social and economic disadvantage. They have to basically prove that there's been an actual um, some type of discrimination or yeah, basically a discrimination that affected your ability to move forward in business or education. This also happened with the 8A program, which threw it in a in a kind of a tailspin for a moment. But it's moving forward. I'll get into some of the details of that. But the I wanted to just quickly touch on this just to let you know that those who are looking to receive a DBE certification, if you're in construction and you want to go after this certification, it is really important to have a really good conversation with the certifying agency. Here in the Bay Area, that could be BART, the VTA, or Caltrans. So if you are looking to become a DBE, the first thing I would do before even doing the application, talk to us, but also reach out to the certifying agency to find out what's going on in terms of how are they handling new applications. Okay, moving forward. Okay, good time for questions, I guess, huh?
Yeah, and this is a good reminder to anyone who has a questions. Please enter your questions into the Q&A section of Zoom. That way we can track them and make sure that they are getting answered. I do see a hands up. Unfortunately, we don't do hands up in these webinars. So please do enter that question into Q&A, and I am happy to ask Thomas that question. I did see one in chat, which I will ask as folks get their questions into the Q&A moving forward. Um, what would happen if a business qualifies for all of these certifications?
Yeah, actually, the new application process on the SBA handles that fairly well, but it allows you to do all of them or the ones you qualify for. So it goes through a question and answer process, and it will say, okay, it looks like based on your answers, you qualify for the WOSB and VOSB and SDVOSB. And then you can choose to apply for all three or just one of them.
And what would be the deciding factor of if you are qualified for all of them, should you get all of them?
The reason I'm smiling and laughing about that is I deal with that question a great deal of times. And my answer is, again, I'll go back to what I said before. The federal government is huge. If you have one certification, let's say it's the WOSB certification, you're going to still have to focus on what federal agencies are really using the WOSB to buy your product or service. If you then say, okay, I'm going to do that, but I want to, if I qualify for all three certifications, do I have the ability to do the marketing for each certification for all of the different federal agencies trying to figure out who should I focus on? If you do have that bandwidth, if you have that ability to do all that, then sure. But I'm of the opinion less is more. A more focused approach is better. That is my opinion. So it's important to do some marketing research before you start the process of getting your application submitted, in my opinion.
Fantastic. And we do have a couple of questions, and a lot of the details in these questions are
Will
things
be
that we're going to get into in
okay.
the Next
So
part.
let's keep going. Yeah.
I do want to clarify something before we move on, though, because there's a bit of confusion of how federal certifications interact with state certification and whether there's overlap, especially with the DBE, because that's kind of in that gray area. Do you think you could kind of define that a little bit more for us before we move on, Thomas?
I would just say for the most part, federal certifications are for federal contracts. They don't apply. For example, you're not going to see the state of California providing some kind of advantage to small businesses based on a federal certification because the state has their own certifications. And so each agency, when I say agency, I'm talking about the federal government to me is one big agency. The state of California is one big agency. The city of San Francisco is its own agency. San Mateo County is its own agency. So they all have their own types of certifications. And so no, the WOSB certification on the federal with the federal government cannot, you're not going to see opportunities to use that with cities, counties, or the state of California.
Yeah.
They
And
are
on the
separate.
flip side, if you're certified small business with the state of California, that's not going to play into federal contracts in any way, shape, or form.
Correct.
Perfect. And yeah, I just wanted to get that clarification. And
Okay.
as a note, moving forward, we are discussing federal certifications only.
Only. Yes. Yeah,
We
we're
do have other content
yeah,
about
that would
California
make a
state
very long
certification.
webinar if we did all certifications.
Perfect. And with that, I think we're ready to move on.
Okay. All right. So as I mentioned, this is the largest group of businesses that fall into this category. For the most part, because it's a self-certification. There is no lengthy application process. Within SAM.gov, they ask several questions, but it's relatable to your next code. But again, 51% owned or controlled by by as it says here, based on your race, ethnic, or cultural bias, meet the small business standards of the next codes, and this link will take you directly there. As it says, past 3 years do not exceed 350,000 net worth, not more than 750K, and must not own assets more than 6 million. But again, this is all self-certified. So there is no lengthy application process whatsoever. You get the SDB when you do your SAM.gov registration. And the main benefit is 5% goal across all federal agencies. So all federal agencies, depending on their budget, 5% of that budget is their goal is to spend 5% of their budget with small disadvantaged businesses. One of the ways that they do that, though, is by making sure that larger contracts, um, when primes are going to win those larger contracts, like I said, as an example, 5 million or more, that they mandated that within that contract, a certain percentage has to be done with these small disadvantaged businesses. Let's jump to the next one. Oh, questions. Okay. I forgot we had a question after each certification.
Yeah, we kind of wanted to break it up so that we can answer the questions about the small disadvantaged business certification.
Got it. Yes.
So let me go ahead and see. I've been answering a few questions that are adjacent and looking for links and resources. So let's see. Okay. It doesn't look like as of right now we have any questions about this certification. So please do feel free to enter in any questions you have into the Q&A section. But for this one, I think we'll move on to the veteran-owned small business.
Okay. Thank you, Amanda. So the veteran-owned small business, we're going to cover this and the service disabled. But for this one, the main evidence or proof is just having your DD 214. Of course, you have to be 51% owned and controlled by a veteran. There are many situations when I work with my clients where uh, Troy is the veteran, but he has two partners. It's an LLC, Vincent and Mario. And so Troy may or may not be the CEO. He may or may not actually operate on a daily basis. But those are the things that will control whether or not your application is approved by the SBA. So what they're going to do when you go through that application process, they want you to prove that in this example, Troy is 51% an owner and that Troy is actually operating the business on a daily basis with his partners, of course. Um, and the reason for that is when they first created these certifications, a lot of fraud was happening and taking place. And it's called what the term is usually called a pass-through, meaning you have a veteran who owns a company, but in reality, it's a partner, whether it's a silent partner or just the other people who are part of the company are actually running it, controlling it, operating it, and generating the profits. And the veteran is just in name. To avoid that, they make sure the application process is pretty thorough for the veteran to prove they actually are running and controlling the company. This makes it difficult. It makes it challenging. I understand. I have husband and wives that sometimes have an issue being qualified and getting approved because of this very clear distinction between 51% and being in control. But yes, that is the main qualification for the VOSB and the SDVOSB. Let's talk about the benefits though. Um, Primarily, the VA, the Veterans Administration, it's a huge federal agency that commands and spends a great deal of money every single year. I don't have the exact numbers because, of course, it goes up and down a little bit, but they're one of the larger agencies. And so, if you provide products and services that the VA does purchase, and you qualify for the VOSB or SDVOSB, it would be a good idea to get this certification and focus most of your marketing on the VA. And then you could also break this down into where you're located. So for California, as an example, I believe there are over 100 different veteran hospitals and clinics. Plus, they have homes. There's so many different areas of opportunity for business. Everything from, the normal things for a hospital, but also IT, professional services, everything from executive coaching, leadership development, training, stuff like that. And as you can see on the screen, it also talks about set-asides. This is extremely popular and great way for certified firms to win contracts by just competing against other certified firms. So when there's an opportunity for a VA hospital, as an example, to purchase $150,000 worth of whatever the product or service is, they can automatically create that as a set aside, meaning only small businesses who are certified can compete against that contract. So this is a great way to utilize and a reason to be certified. I'm going to move forward to the SD. Let's see. There we go. And so here, the difference, of course, is you have to prove your service connected disability, excuse me. Again, be considered a small business based on your next code. And again, as a veteran, demonstrate that you are actively involved in the day-to-day operations and you are the majority controller and owner of that business. As you can see on the right side, the same benefits apply. I would say the only difference between the VO and SD when it comes to opportunities is I personally see more opportunities for service disabled, veteran owned small businesses than simply VOSB, particularly with the Veterans Administration. I do see more. Again, there are opportunities for veteran-owned small businesses in the federal government in terms of getting that certification, but I do see a little bit more of the SDVOSBs. And I believe we can take time for questions if there are any.
Fantastic. And we do have a couple of questions regarding this one in particular, but I do think there may have been one or two that came in a little late for the small disadvantaged business as well. So someone is wondering if you can qualify as a veteran if you received a general discharge and served limited duty due to injury. Would that still qualify? Maybe not for service disabled, but at least for the veteran?
No, absolutely for both.
Oh,
If
fantastic.
if you have if you have um, a disability rating of, I believe, at least 10%, you qualify for the SDVOSB. If you don't have any disability, but you did uh, 3 years, 4 years, and you have a general discharge, you still do qualify. Yes.
Amazing. And then Marvin was wondering, as we talk about, quantifying your assets and getting the financial documents and how actual like personal assets can play into qualifying for these certifications. Marvin was wondering if a retirement account counts as an asset for these.
No, does not. Actually,
Amazing.
I don't think the home qualifies also. I
Mm,
think they made that distinction because, the price of homes are so high right now. So, yes, you could own $1 million home, but you could have owned it through inherited it. So
yes,
no, I don't believe the actual home qualifies in terms of. Oh no, it would be part of your assets, but remember, assets go up to like 6 million. So
yeah.
the biggest thing is revenue. What is your business generating in revenue?
Perfect. And that's where you can kind of, if you sign up for services, you can get into those nuances and those details as you're going through the certification process with one of our counselors. So that is a great benefit to have someone in your corner kind of thinking through all of these different facets with you. And we have one other question that I'd like to answer during this session. What is the financial investment to get certified? Does each certification have a different or separate cost?
Okay, so this one I'll answer this way. Any certification from any government entity is free. On the federal side, all certifications are free. On the state of California, and from what I understand, any state in the union getting this certification is free. Cities, counties, universities, the application process, they should never charge for a certification with any actual government entity. On the same time, there are certifications that are fee-based, but those are almost always based on doing business with companies. So there is a certification for women, women-owned small businesses, minority businesses. but those are fee-based based on doing business with companies and not with government. So hopefully that
And
answers. So it's free. Yes,
yeah,
there's no cost to apply for any federal certifications.
yeah, and this is a good point to kind of note that there are companies out there. We have seen them. We have had clients come to us after working with these companies that will charge you money to do the certification for you. And while that is a choice that you can make as a business owner and as a professional, um, I would say connect with us first and foremost and see if we can provide the same services and same assistance at no cost. Because we really are here and we're funded to help you for absolutely no cost on your end. So that would be my only kind of thing. Of course, it is your choice if you want to go with a consultancy to get this stuff done. But if you're willing to learn and put a little work behind it, you can get all of your certifications, all of your registrations, all for free. And I will note just for everybody, I do see quite a few questions in the chat. Please do remember we are answering questions from the Q&A section first and foremost so that I can make sure those questions get answered and track them as I know I have already lost quite a few questions in the chat. So please, if you are entering questions into the chat box of Zoom, please transfer them over to the Q&A so I can make sure they get asked. And with that, let's go ahead and go into women-owned small business.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the WOSB, again, must be 51% owned and controlled by a woman who is a U.S. citizen. Also must manage the day-to-day operations and making the long-term decisions for the company. And the link there where it says SBA maintains a list of those eligible industries and next codes. As far as I understand, I haven't gone through the entire list, but it's 90% of all next codes still qualify for a WOSB. I haven't run across a company that could not get certified as a WOSB because the product or service they supply isn't covered under the next code. But there must exist something, but I haven't seen it. Um, the benefit, the biggest benefit is, of course, the set asides, right? A agency, it could be any agency, but the agency says we are buying products or services between that everything from 10,000 all the way up to 250,000. They can pick and choose which certification they want to use. And so they will, if they see there's quality WOSB firms that provide the service or product they're looking for, they can make that a set aside and just invite two or more of those businesses to bid, and they make a choice. The process for a set aside is almost always quicker than a regular RFP process. And so that's one of the great things. The other benefit of the WOSB, again, is when primes are given a large contract and they are mandated to spend anywhere from 5 to 20% of that contract with a WOSB certified firm. Um, Again, all of this kind of seems the same when it comes to the main benefits, which are set asides and being a part of a large contract. And again, the eligibility is kind of the same in that, you just need to prove that as a woman-owned small business, you are really running this company on a day-to-day basis, and the application process is intense when it comes to the paperwork to prove that, just like the VOSB. Okay, so the difference between the VO and the EDWOSB. And here it breaks it down on the left side under the eligibility. So be owned and controlled by one or more women, each with a personal net worth not less than $850,000. Also, be owned and controlled by one or more women, each with 400,000 or less in adjusted gross income over the previous 3 years. And then finally, be owned and controlled by one or more women, each 6.5 million or less in personal assets. So while these numbers are all over the board like this, I would say if you it would be the paperwork is a lot more on the application process for the EDWOSB than it is for the WOSB. In terms of simplicity, the WOSB is an easier application to go through. The risk versus reward thing again. Is it going to be an advantage to go after the EDWOSB versus the WOSB? Based on my research, the answer is no. But again, that's my limited research, not looking at all the different industries, products, and services. So my advice would be to really do some research to see what agencies are doing set aside contracts with EDWOSVs versus just WOSB. That's what I would do before making a decision on which of the applications to go after. And in this scenario, I don't believe you could do both. I think you got to make a choice on whether it's the ED or just the WOSB. And I believe, let's see. Yes. Any questions?
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to note for everybody, thank you so much for putting your questions into the Q&A section. We do have quite a few questions that are piling up about sam.gov, and we will be getting to those. That is the final section of this presentation, and so I am saving those for that section. Please do not worry, I am
Oh,
not
joy.
ignoring your question, but we will get to those. So someone was wondering if they could have an alternative job while still managing a WOSB certified company.
For the most part, that will get you denied. I'm not going to say it's 100%, but yes, I've had several clients that were denied because it was shown based on their application that the part-time job or the other job supporting them as they're growing their business shows that they are not actively running their company on a day-to-day basis. And so that was grounds for just for refusal or denial of the certification. That's one that comes up a lot. Yes.
Fantastic. And then Pamela was wondering if SBA manages all the certification applications at the federal level, except for that SDB, which is self-certify on SAM. Is SBA the place to go?
This is what's happened over the last few years, and the answer is yes. So you used to have to go to the VA for the veteran certifications, but now you just go to SBA. There was a different outlet for the WOSB, but it's all been combined. And actually, during this webinar, I'll show you the website and what it looks like. So yes.
And I will also, I'm looking up that website URL to drop in chat. So once we do get to that section, you can all explore it while we're talking about it.
Okay. Any more questions, or should we?
Um, I see a couple that I would like to save for the very end as a capstone question because it kind of addresses all the certifications and it's more broad, but definitely something I want to ask. So please do note if I have not asked your question, I do see them. I will ask them. I have a plan for it. During this presentation, I just want to make sure we get you the context and information before we answer that question. So I do believe that is all we have for now. So let's go ahead
Okay.
and move on to 8A.
Oh, there we go. Okay. So the 8A is an actual program. It's not a certification in the technical sense. It's a program. As you can see here, it's 9 years. The first 4 years are normally building the business, building relationships with contracting officers. That's the key. It takes some time to really build these relationships so that they feel comfortable and confident in your firm, and so they can start awarding lengthy set aside contracts. And when I mean lengthy, the average is 5 years, right? So you can win a set aside contract that just continuously renews every year for 5 years, provided you're meeting the goals and of the contract. And then those last 5 years is when they're hoping that they see you grow and grow to become a quote large business, or you transition out of it because now you're large enough and it's done its job of turning you from a small business to a large successful company. That's the overall goal of the 8A program. You have annual meetings with the SBA, who is basically primarily running the 8A program, and you're assigned a counselor or yeah, I guess that's the way word, an 8A counselor who works with you over that 9 year period. Um, And again, it's a one-time deal. So once you're in the AA program and you do the 9 years, you cannot renew it again. You can be certified in a different certification, but you can't do the 8A anymore. There we go. Now let's talk about some 2025 updates. So the eligibility is, of course, you have to be a small business. You can't have been part of it before. You must be 51% owned and controlled by a U.S. citizen that's socially and economically disadvantaged. Now, the caveat is now you have to prove that disadvantage by way of a personal narrative. So, what that means that you have to show in a written statement, it could be a letter, two, three paragraphs, but you have to detail how your social or economic status hindered you. How were you discriminated against because being an African American in whatever community, or Hispanic, or maybe they also do the economics. So coming from a rural community, um, were you were you discriminated against as you were going through, whether it's a university or trying to get your business started? But you have to submit some type of personal narrative. Now, the application does give you examples. It also has a template to kind of help you start the process. But that is a new thing that started early in 2025. The other eligibility requirements are have a net worth not more than 850, adjusted gross income of 400,000 or less, and your assets can't be more than 6.5 million. The other questions you get about the 8A is um, when can you start the process? I opened up my company January 2025. Can I apply for the 8A application now? And the answer is more than likely you will be denied. They're looking for businesses that have some track record of working with the private sector first. So you have to show some length of business, and because they want to see proof of contracts, they want to see proof of your company winning awards or winning contracts on the private side. If you can't show that, then they're probably gonna deny you. So you want to, they normally say 2 years of history, 2 years of business history before you start the process. Okay, let's look at the benefits. So effectively compete and receive set aside and sole source contracts. Okay, and so this is really important. Um, this administration has made it they have rolled back the popularity of the 8A program within the federal government. There have been some news reports, there have been some social media reports, and in fact, they just put out a mandate. All existing 8A firms have to go through a lengthy financial audit to verify that there has been no fraud or any misdoings of that 8A firm while they've been in the program. This is creating a financial hardship on the 8A firms because it requires many of them may not have the accounting that they need in-house, so they have to find a CPA and help them put together all of the financial documents that they require to meet this new goal. The other thing that I've been getting is many of my clients have been telling me that 2023, 2024, they could easily find set aside contracts or set aside opportunities on sam.gov. Now they're finding very little, if any. So the contracting officers within the federal government aren't utilizing the 8A as they were in 2023 and 2024. So if they're meeting their goals, they're meeting them by awarding set asides to, as an example, WOSBs or HubZone or veteran-owned businesses or simply the SDBs, small disadvantaged businesses. And they're bypassing the 8A firm. Second bullet, receive one-on-one business development assistance while you're in the program from a business opportunity specialist. These employees are actually being phased out, though. So the help that you used to receive as an 8A firm isn't going to be there in the short term. Doesn't mean that this will last for the next 9, 10 years, because we know how our political government works, and there's a change every 4 years, and so things could reverse. But as of now, this is what's happening. Um, Another benefit, pursuing opportunities for mentorship from experienced, capable firms through the Mentor Protege program. The Mentor Protege program, just a quick review of it, is when a larger firm wants to basically connect with a small 8A firm for the goal of helping the 8A firm generate contracts. And then the 8A firm is basically going to act as the prime when going after a contract and using the large firm as a sub to do certain work. Quick example would be, let's say it's an IT project. It's worth $20 million to do some kind of IT upgrade of a military base or something. Instead of the prime winning, the 8A firm will win, but they have the prime as their mentor helping them, and it provides the prime with an opportunity to win a contract they could never be a part of because it's designed for the small business. Excuse me. Here's the other bullet points of the different benefits. But again, it's a program that's in some flux right now, to be perfectly honest with you. All right. Any questions on the updated 8A situation or the application process?
So not at this time. I'm actually answering one AA question right now because we are at the top of the hour. I will note this webinar was scheduled for an hour and we appreciate your time. We want to respect your time. So if you do have to leave at the top of the hour, it is 11:02. Please do not worry. You will be receiving the recording of this event with this extended section as well, in addition to the slides. So you'll be able to discover and explore all of this information on your own. But because we are at that time, Thomas, we're going to push past these last two Q&A sections and try to get through the content.
Yeah, no problem. Okay. So as I said before, the Hub Zone is the only certification program that's based on your location. It also, because of that, it only has 3% of a mandate versus the other certifications have 5%. Here's the eligibility. Again, a little bit different, but 51% only controlled by a U.S. citizen or community development corporations or Alaska Native Corporation or Native Hawaiian organization or an Indian tribe. Again, your office must be located in a hub zone. This link here will take you to a map, and all you do is put in your zip code for where your office is located, and it will clearly say hub zone or not hub zone. Also, 35% of your employees must live in a hub zone. It doesn't have to be the same hub zone that the office is located or headquarters is, but 35% of its employees have to live in a hub zone. So let's say you can find all of the qualifications and criteria at this other link here. This is the most complicated one, but the main thing you want to look at is, am I located in a hub zone, and do at least 35% of my employees live in a hub zone? Here are the benefits. Um, Again, limits competition. So a contracting officer for any federal agency can say, you know what, I want to do a set aside and I only want to work with hub zone firms. Hub zone firms also are listed with when it comes to doing the larger contracts and a prime, and they will say, you know what, this is a $20 million contract. As a mandate, you also must award 5% of the work that you do with a hub zone firm. Keep going. We'll talk about the application and registration process. Okay, so this is what the actual SBA application looks like, right? So for those that were asking the question, yes, how can I apply for all of them at the same time? This is the process. They're going to go, should I apply? And then you click, once you do that and you go through that process, it'll tell you what you qualify for initially based on certain questions. And then preparing for the application, it will give you a list of all of the different documents you're going to need based on which certification you're going to apply for. Very simple. Then the Hub Zone calculator kind of helps you understand your income, your hub zone locations, your employees, making sure that 35% are in the hub zones. So these tools all help you before you actually start the application process. I'm sorry, hold on. Okay. We're going to jump into SAM. Before you can do any of these things, you have to be registered as a vendor with the federal government, and that is sam.gov. One-stop shop to do that. You have to get your UEI number and a cage code. Um, this is a this can be a challenging process because the system is not intuitive. It it is a challenge. Just it is a challenge. A lot of what we do here at Apex is we work with clients getting them registered in SAM. So clearly, this is one of the benefits of working with us is helping you go through SAM. We can sit here with you and get you registered in SAM within, let's say, one hour Zoom meeting. If you do it up by yourself, I've heard stories of people taking 3 days, 4 hours because they don't know what answer to answer for the myriad of questions, and the way they word these things can be a little confusing. Okay, so to be eligible to register your business in SAM, for profit or nonprofit, of course, government contractors, state and local governments also have to register in SAM. So if a county is wanting to receive a federal contract, you still have to register in SAM. So anybody who wants to do business with the federal government has to register in SAM. Yes, it's free. And as I mentioned before, the small disadvantaged business is how you get that through answering the right questions in SAM. The other thing it mentions here is the dynamic small business database. That is on the SBA website. But what happens is when you do your SAM, it automatically transitions and populates the SBA's database. This SBA database is used by contracting officers within the federal government when they're looking for firms to market to. Let's see, keep going. So this just is a quick little link that just shows you what you're looking at when you want to start the process of registering your entity. So the first step is the individual has to have an account on SAM. Once you have an account, then you can register your company or entity in SAM. Okay. So I'm going to turn it back over to Amanda, and we're going to answer as many questions as we can with the time we have allotted.
Absolutely. And first and foremost, us as an Apex Accelerator Center and our 96 centers across the nation really do want to see you succeed in government contracting. So if you are looking to get certified, if you're looking to get registered, if you're really looking to take that step into government contracting, please connect with your local Apex Accelerative Center. Again, it's absolutely no cost assistance to support your contracting goals, so there's nothing to lose. And I am going to leave this up for just a moment. We do have a number of events planned for the beginning of the year, including I did see Scott with a question about GSA schedules versus RFPs. We're going to be discussing GSA schedules in February, so that sounds like an event you may want to check out, Scott. But aside from our events, I do want to get into some of these last questions. And I will note I am dropping our feedback survey in chat. As you exit the webinar, you will be redirected to that. But if you are looking to let us know how we did today and what other information, what other trainings you may be looking for, this is the place to do so. So let's get into these questions. Nicole was wondering if there's a waiting period after the SAM registration process. So after you upload the articles of organization, before you are actually finalized and registered.
It's moving a lot faster, but yes, it could be a few days to a week.
Fantastic. And then Marvin was wondering for the Hub Zone certification, does the work performed have to be in a Hub Zone area as well, or can the work performed be anywhere in the country? Just the
Oh,
business has to be in Hub Zone.
yeah, it could be the contract could be for work anywhere in the country.
Fantastic. But the Hub Zone requirement is for the business headquarters and employees, right?
Correct, correct.
Amazing. And then someone is wondering if you already have a SAM registration and it's not up for renewal quite yet, can you go in and revise it?
Yes, you can at any time go in and revise or make changes to your SAM registration at any time.
Awesome. And that's so good. 'Cause things change. Things always change. And then I'd love to leave us on this kind of future question. And of course, we don't want to speculate too much as things are
Hmm.
still developing and falling into place at the federal level. But Scott had asked about something he had heard about procurement being done through GSA schedules as opposed to what we're used to in the RFP system. Do you see that coming down the pipeline or know of any good resources where he can keep up to date with that information?
Okay. So GSA has always been utilized as a valuable tool to help federal contracting officers speed the process of buying goods and services they need for their agencies. What this administration has done, though, they have mandated that they do more of that, meaning instead of proposals, instead of the RFP process, which can take longer and is a little bit more expensive in terms of how to find a bidder to award a contract to. They want to use the schedules. A schedule is simply a contract. Um, I'm a small business. I provide IT services, laptops. I will list exactly what I want to sell, and I will specify exactly what my price is up front. And then I submit that to GSA. If GSA accepts it, then I'm locked in for a 5-year period. These are my products, these are the pricing, and they can just reach out to me and buy directly. That is going to increase over the next 4 years. So, yes, if you don't have a schedule, then getting a schedule will be a valuable tool because the federal government will be buying more things from the schedule. With that said, the caveat is okay, but there's already a long list of firms on the schedule. Still, how do you separate yourself? Right? Let's use the laptop scenario again. Um, the the administration is actively pushing a preference for large companies over small businesses. That is just a fact based on the executive orders that have come out and the rules that have come out in terms of what contracting officers need to do to be more, quote, effective or efficient in purchasing goods and services for their agencies. And they see doing more buying from larger firms as more effective, more efficient, i.e., cheaper. That is the the risk or the the challenge that we as a small business community deal with when it comes to the federal government right now. It's that one key issue is they're looking to be more, quote, efficient, which ends up hurting the small business community and their flexibility. But yes, they will be buying more things on the schedule. Then you'll see stuff coming on sam.gov as a RFP process.
Yeah. And like I did mention, we are planning a webinar just like this one that'll go over GSA schedules, and how to really determine if your business is ready to take that on in February. So do keep an eye out for that, as that is going to be a very important one for the future. And with that, I will go ahead and wrap us up. Thank you all so much for staying. I know we did go a little bit over time, but I do hope it was all valuable information that made the time worthwhile. Thank you all so much for sticking it out with us. We really do appreciate you joining us this morning. And as you exit the webinar, you will be redirected to our feedback survey. As always, we're looking for your input to make our webinars and training offerings better. If we can be doing a different topic or presenting it in a different way, this survey is where you can let us know. On the flip side, if we're doing a fantastic job, you thought this was a great webinar and you'd love to see more like this, that feedback survey is also the place to let us know that. We always love getting the positive feedback just as much as the one that we can use to better our trainings and our offerings for you, because we truly do put on these trainings for you and to support your business goals. So if we could be doing it better, or if we're already doing great, we'd love to hear from you. And
All
with
right.
that,
Thank you, everybody.
thank you so much, Thomas, for such a great presentation. A lot of updates, a lot of important information. So thank you for pulling that together, Thomas.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for your assistance with doing this webinar.
Of course. And with that, I'd like to thank you all one last time for joining us this morning. And I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day, a great rest of your week, and a very warm holiday season.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.